The events unfolding right now could fundamentally alter everything we understand about our place in the cosmos. At this very moment, as you watch this video, the interstellar object designated as 3I/Atlas has reached its closest approach to the Sun, the critical moment astronomers call perihelion. What is happening during this phase is unlike anything scientists have ever witnessed. This is not merely another comet. 3I/Atlas is behaving in ways that defy every known model of celestial mechanics, shifting its tail, glowing with inexplicable colors, and traversing space at speeds that shouldn't be possible. Some claim it is simply a natural wanderer from a distant star system. Others, including one of Harvard's most daring astrophysicists, believe it could be something else entirely, something built. And now, fresh data from the James Webb Space Telescope, Hubble, and dozens of ground observatories are converging on one terrifying possibility. What is happening with 3I/Atlas right now could be either the most significant discovery in human history or our first warning. When the Atlas survey in Chile first detected 3I/Atlas in July 2025, astronomers immediately noticed something peculiar. Its orbit wasn't just elongated, it was hyperbolic. This meant it wasn't looping around the Sun like every asteroid, planet, or comet we know. It was merely passing through. This made it only the third confirmed interstellar object ever observed, following Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. But even compared to its predecessors, 3I/Atlas stood apart. With a velocity exceeding 210,000 kilometers per hour, it was the fastest object of its kind ever recorded. And its path would bring it surprisingly close, just 1.36 astronomical units from the Sun, and later about $1.80 from Earth, roughly 267 million kilometers away. Distant, yet close enough to monitor in agonizing detail. What they discovered during those initial observations stunned the scientific community. The object's light signature didn't match any known asteroid or comet. It was too stable under solar radiation, too structured, and too reflective. Whatever 3I/Atlas is, it is unlike anything we have seen before. As it raced toward the Sun, telescopes around the globe began detecting anomalies that sent shockwaves through the field of astronomy. The Hubble Space Telescope detected something unprecedented, an anti-tail, a bright jet of material extending toward the Sun rather than away from it. Weeks later, that anti-tail suddenly reversed, transforming into a standard tail pointing outward. The shift was so symmetrical and abrupt that many wondered if it was a form of controlled propulsion. The Nordic Optical Telescope in Spain and the Keck Observatory in Hawaii confirmed the shift, while the James Webb Space Telescope detected something even stranger. 3I/Atlas's coma, the cloud surrounding its nucleus, was composed of 87% carbon dioxide, 9% carbon monoxide, and just 4% water. No other comet in our solar system shares that composition. It is almost bone-dry, yet glowing in the infrared as if radiating heat from within. Even more bizarre, spectroscopy revealed a massive cloud of CO2 surrounding the object, stretching nearly 350,000 kilometers, larger than the diameter of Jupiter. Inside it, traces of hydrogen cyanide and a high ratio of nickel with almost no iron. Natural, possibly, but as one scientist whispered, those are industrial ratios. When 3I/Atlas reached perihelion, many expected it to disintegrate under solar radiation like countless comets before it. Instead, it did something no one predicted. It survived. Not a single fragment was detected. In fact, it emerged stronger. Observers noted that a coronal mass ejection from the Sun struck its path directly, a burst powerful enough to vaporize fragile bodies instantly. Yet, 3I/Atlas barely flinched. It absorbed the impact and continued its trajectory intact, its surface temperature rising and then stabilizing as if it were designed to withstand it. Its elongated shape, with an aspect ratio of 10:1, mirrored that of Oumuamua, thin, long, almost aerodynamic. But while Oumuamua tumbled erratically, 3I/Atlas remained steady, reflecting light with a strange negative polarization, a property shared by no known natural object. Scientists began calling it the unbreakable visitor, and that is when some theorists, including Harvard's Avi Loeb, placed it in Category 4 of the Loeb extraterrestrial scale, a system ranking interstellar objects by the likelihood of them being artificial. According to Loeb, 3I/Atlas has a 40% chance of being technological. Others call that speculation. But as each new anomaly surfaces, that number feels less like science fiction and more like prophecy. Right now, 3I/Atlas is performing the maneuver that could change everything, the moment physicists like Michio Kaku have been waiting for. If the object accelerates beyond what solar gravity predicts, it would mean only one thing. It is under control. This maneuver, known as the Oberth effect, is a technique used by spacecraft to gain massive speed by firing propulsion near a gravity source, in this case, the Sun. If 3I/Atlas does this, it would gain an impossible amount of kinetic energy, enough to slingshot out of the solar system, or worse, redirect its trajectory toward Earth. Astronomers worldwide are waiting, calculating, and watching. So far, there is no confirmed deviation, but the data is still pouring in. NASA, meanwhile, quietly activated its Planetary Defense Network, a coordinated observation campaign involving 227 observatories across the globe, officially as a training exercise. But the timing is no coincidence. When rumors began spreading that radio telescopes had detected a weak but consistent signals synchronized with 3I/Atlas's orbit, the internet exploded. Was it calling home? Was it interference? Or was it something else? A whisper across the void from a machine older than our civilization? Days after 3I/Atlas completed its perihelion passage, something impossible happened. It slowed down. Not in a way that physics could explain, not through solar wind, drag, or gravitational deceleration, but in a way that seemed deliberate. Tracking data from both the European Space Agency and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory showed a measurable reduction in velocity, around 0.08 meters per second squared, consistent over 20 hours. It was as if the object had gently applied the brakes. Natural objects do not do that. They do not resist the sun's gravity with controlled precision. But here was 3I/Atlas, an object hundreds of meters across, performing a maneuver smoother than any spacecraft we have ever launched. The deceleration occurred exactly when it crossed a threshold known as the thermal equilibrium zone, where an object's internal heat equals the solar energy it absorbs. The implication terrified everyone. Something inside 3I/Atlas might be reacting to its environment, regulating its temperature, and perhaps, just perhaps, adjusting its course. That same week, the Mitsuhara Deep Space Radio Observatory in Japan picked up a narrowband signal coming from the general direction of 3I/Atlas. It was faint, but undeniably structured. A repeating series of 3 pulses followed by a pause, repeating every 247 seconds. The same mysterious interval first recorded months earlier when the object was behind the sun. At first, astronomers dismissed it as satellite interference or equipment noise. But when the same pattern was detected by independent teams in Italy, Chile, and South Africa, the scientific community could no longer ignore it. The signal was real. More unnerving was its stability. It didn't fluctuate with cosmic background interference or solar wind. It remained constant, as if locked to an internal clock. When analyzed through frequency modulation, the pulses displayed phase coherence, a sign of intentional encoding, not random emission. NASA refused to comment publicly, but an internal leak from the SETI Institute revealed that the signal carried faint harmonics in a hydrogen band, the universal frequency used in theoretical interstellar communication. Someone or something wanted to be noticed. The scientific community fractured overnight. Half argued that 3I/Atlas was the first physical evidence of an interstellar probe, perhaps technology or debris from a civilization long extinct. The other half fought to preserve order, claiming it was all coincidence, that nature could mimic intelligence if observed long enough. But as data continued to arrive, denial became impossible. The James Webb Space Telescope, reoriented to follow the object from its L2 orbit, detected an unnatural polarization pattern coming from the surface of 3I/Atlas. Unlike any known asteroid or comet, it reflected light in alternating planes, as though rotating layers of material were intentionally modulating the reflection. The readings even showed microsecond variations matching the rhythm of the radio pulses. At the same time, telescopes in Chile observed that its tail had reformed into two separate streams, not parallel, but crossing at a precise 90-degree angle. That geometry does not occur naturally. It was as if the object had split its emission, using its own vaporized gases to send optical signals across space. Theorists began to wonder, what if these weren't random emissions? What if 3I/Atlas was using light itself to communicate? Not with us, but with something else. Then came the event that changed everything. On August 29th, as 3I/Atlas moved beyond Earth's orbital plane, its trajectory shifted by 0.11 degrees. A small but deliberate motion that placed it directly in line with the ecliptic plane of the outer planets. The alignment was perfect, too perfect. For 27 hours, the object's projected path formed a direct line through Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and beyond. Every telescope trained on it recorded a strange luminescence radiating from its core, fluctuating at regular intervals. Astronomers noticed that the intervals coincided exactly with planetary orbital resonances, as if 3I/Atlas were calibrating itself to the harmonic frequencies of our solar system. The alignment was not random. It was choreographed. But what followed was even more chilling. For the first time since its discovery, the object emitted a visible flash, a burst of ultraviolet light lasting 2.8 seconds, strong enough to ionize the solar wind in its vicinity. The flash wasn't diffused or wide. It was directional, aimed toward deep interstellar space. When scientists traced the beam's vector, it pointed precisely toward the coordinates of a region between Lyra and Vega, the exact same region where the mysterious WOW signal was detected in 1977. Silence followed. The radio pulses ceased, the flash stopped, and 3I/Atlas went dark. For weeks after 3I/Atlas went dark, the world watched in silence. Every radar dish, every telescope, every instrument capable of tracking it was locked on its last known coordinates. But there was nothing. No reflected signal, no heat signature, no light. It had vanished. NASA officially declared it optically lost, meaning it was gone beyond detection range. Yet, deep in the raw data archives of the James Webb Space Telescope, something remained. A fragment of light recorded in the final milliseconds before the ultraviolet burst faded. When the data was reconstructed, it revealed a faint interference pattern, a modulation within the light itself, like an optical fingerprint intentionally imprinted onto the universe. And within that pattern was structure. The modulation wasn't random noise. It contained repeating frequency ratios, the same one seen in planetary resonances, hydrogen transitions, and, most eerily, in the Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic heartbeat of Earth's atmosphere. Whatever 3I/Atlas emitted in that last pulse was not a simple flash. It was a message written in light, encoded in a language older than words. When scientists at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics ran the data through waveform analysis, the results stunned them. The signal mirrored the same prime number sequences embedded in the earlier radio emissions, but now they were arranged into a three-dimensional structure, a lattice of interlocking spirals resembling a double helix. It wasn't text. It was geometry, a blueprint, a universal constant. Avi Loeb, the man who had once called 3I/Atlas possibly artificial, described the discovery as a cosmic signature of intent. According to his report, the geometry represented a form of resonant encoding. a way of storing vast amounts of information within patterns of energy rather than through language or symbols. If true, it meant that 3i/Atlas hadn't sent us a message to read. It had left behind a code for us to experience, one that could only be understood by recreating its frequencies, by making the universe itself vibrate the way it once did. NASA immediately classified the data, but not before several independent researchers mirrored the waveform and ran it through quantum resonance simulators. When they did, something extraordinary happened. A repeating harmonic began to emerge, growing stronger with each cycle, as though the waveform was interacting with the very fabric of space-time. Then, suddenly, the signal inverted and the simulation shut down. But before it did, it displayed one final phrase generated automatically by the AI translation module, which had been trained to interpret mathematical symmetries as linguistic meaning. The phrase read, "We remember you." The message spread across scientific circles like wildfire before being wiped from public databases. NASA denied everything. SETI went silent. Even the European Space Agency's data archives were briefly locked under cosmic security protocols. Officially, 3i/Atlas was declared a natural interstellar comet, its anomalies dismissed as data errors. Unofficially, whispers grew louder that the object's final signal was not a farewell, but an activation. 2 months later, several observatories began detecting faint echoes of that same harmonic, not from the direction of Vega or Lyra, but from deep within our own solar system. The resonance matched perfectly, as if something nearby had received the transmission and answered. No one knows what that means yet. Some think it is just solar interference. Others believe it is a cosmic echo bouncing through the heliosphere. But a small group of scientists, the same ones who first decoded 3i/Atlas's signal, believe something far more profound, that whatever sent that object didn't leave us a threat or a warning, but a reminder. A reminder that intelligence might not live outside the universe, but within it, in a harmony between consciousness, matter, and light. Because maybe, just maybe, 3i/Atlas didn't come to observe us. Maybe it came to wake us up. So, if this story made you question what is really out there, and whether something might be watching us right now, not from above, but from the fabric of the cosmos itself, don't look away. Subscribe to this channel. We uncover the discoveries the world isn't ready to face. Turn on notifications, because when that signal returns, you will want to be here when the universe answers back. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts.